Hey, how's it going? I'm Patrick Jiguer with Cosmic Alchemist Astrology, and welcome to today's video. So today is September 20th, 2021. I want to talk briefly about full moon that's happening today. This is a full moon in Pisces. I'm doing Vedic astrology. I read Vedic, so this is 4 degrees of Pisces rather than the 27 degrees of Pisces that Western astrology is talking about. 2 different zodiacs. So if things sound like they're in the wrong places, that's why. Before I get started, I just want to again thank everyone who's subscribed to the channel, who likes the videos, comments, shares the videos. Doing all those things helps the channel, and I appreciate it. And if you've not done these things, I would just like you to consider doing so. Every time I upload a new video, you'll get notified if you subscribe and hit the bell. People ask me every day if I've uploaded new videos. If you subscribe, YouTube will tell you every time. So anyway, let's get to this full moon. Full moons again, it's, you know, full moons are basically like a solar phenomenon because it's when the light of the sun fully illuminates the moon, because the moon is a luminary. It doesn't make its own light. It needs the light of the sun. It's a reflector. It reflects the light of the sun. And with the sun and the sun and the moon, you have this soul and mind relationship. So basically, the sun is like it's a macrocosm written in the sky of each of our souls, of the collective soul for humanity, for the cosmos. And then the moon is a macro of our minds. So the human mind reflects the light or the consciousness of the human soul. So that's the basic relationship with sun and moon. When you get a full moon, again, the sun is fully illuminating the moon. There's no shadow from the earth. So what this does to us here on earth is it basically lays bare our whole consciousness, so our whole emotional self. So it's a time when, you know, for those 3 days when it's full, when it's looking big and full, it's a period of time where we really have to face what's inside of ourselves. You know, if you talk to police, you talk to firemen, paramedics, talk to people who work in emergency rooms, doctors, nurses, they'll tell you full moons are crazy, and accidents, violent crime, all that stuff is way up on a full moon. And this is because it forces us to deal with feelings that we can usually kind of sweep under the rug, stuff into the closet. Full moon is basically the safety release time where we have to feel it, we have to look at it, we have to acknowledge it, whatever it is that we're feeling. So full moon in Pisces. Pisces it's the 12th and final sign of the zodiac. It's the original 12th house, so it deals with all of the meanings of the 12th house. So Pisces in the 12th house, they deal with liberation. They deal with isolation, basically quiet places. They deal with hidden things, secrets. They can even deal with like secrets, conspiracies, scandals, you know, things of a secretive nature that people were doing in the dark, away from the light of day. Pisces is also, it's a water sign, and you've got 3 water signs. You've got Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. Pisces is the deep ocean, so it is the deepest waters. And water is analogous to, and it's symbolic for emotions. So it's our deepest unconscious emotions. So when you have eclipses, major conjunctions, full moons, new moons in Pisces, you're basically dealing with times when we have to deal with our deep unconscious emotional selves. Also deals with, Pisces also deals with completion. It deals with liberation. It's what they call moksha. It's basically like you're released from this world. And that's an interesting thing too, because Pisces does have a relationship with death. And before modern times, especially even before Christian times, death was really a matter of honor, because when people died, they became one with everything. They became one with everything in existence, and they went back to the spirit world, which is a place where you're one with everything, and you don't feel isolated and alone like you do here on Earth. So death was a very different thing, and it was a celebration, and people even looked forward to it. And then when the Christian churches came in, they basically used it as a tool and a weapon of fear against the people, because they said, if you don't follow us and do what our storybook says, the Bible or the Quran or the Torah or whatever the hell, because all those three religions are basically the same thing, a lot of guilt, fear, manipulation. If you don't do all these things before you die, when you die, you're gonna go to hell. You're gonna go to this terrible place, and you're gonna regret everything, and you're gonna be punished. And and even this word hell was just the underworld where souls go, spirits go between incarnations, between earthly lives. So yeah, death was really, the whole meaning of it was completely bastardized, and it was used to manipulate us, our ancestors and us to this day. And we're dealing with a lot of this right now, in the world right now, with all these lockdowns, and with drug companies and their puppet politicians, congressmen, parliament members, presidents, prime ministers. With those political puppets, they're pushing this experimental injectable medicine on us that is very poorly understood and hasn't been properly tested. And they're using the threat of death to do this. So we really, since the Middle Ages, since the 300s, the 400s, CE, AD, when the Catholic Church started taking the Western world over, we really haven't come all that far. We just have a church of science now, and they're even encouraging us to be afraid of death, just like the Christian churches did, and the Muslims, and the Jewish faith and everything. So we, and I'm not putting the people who adhere to those faiths down. I'm talking about the hierarchies that lead those religious establishments that make a hell of a lot of money. So yeah, Pisces also can deal with death, liberation from this world, completion, but it also deals with the ends of cycles. It's the end of one cycle, so a new one can begin. That's what death really is. So death isn't always, your body dying on this physical plane. It's also about eras in the world ending, times in your life ending, and having new things begin. So full moon of Pisces is all about that. It's dealing with our feelings surrounding the ending of old things and the beginning of new things. So, and since I'm an American, I like to make this specific to America. Pisces is the fourth house. So the fourth house is the home, the homeland. It's, maternal energy, it's freedom, it's fulfillment. Because the original ruler of the fourth house is Cancer. Cancer is the chest, the heart center, the heart space. So it's what makes you feel free and fulfilled and good and gratified in your heart. So as Americans, we're definitely dealing with all these things. And especially since we have people who want to push lockdowns and basically hold people's freedom and their lifestyles over their head, unless they get this experimental injection. People are facing decisions right now that have to do with their quality of life and being able to enjoy the place they call home. So, a lot of big meanings here. this is a pretty big full moon. Now, to get more specific with this full moon takes place not just in the sign of Pisces, but in the nakshatra, one of the smaller constellations that makes up Pisces, one of the lunar mansions, the nakshatra of Uttara Bhadrapada. So let's look at what this constellation means. Uttara Bhadrapada, it's Saturn ruled. So Saturn is cold hard reality, Saturn is karma, Saturn is responsibility, Saturn is maturity. Saturn also deals with magic. Saturn is a mystic, and it's interesting with the Vedic mythology. If you go into the origin story of Saturn, Saturn was the son of Surya, the sun, and the sun's wife. I'm having trouble remembering her name, but basically in a myth, the son's wife, her name Chaya. Chaya couldn't stand being near the sun because he was too hot, and even when he took like a human form, he was too hot. So what she wanted to do was she wanted to escape to the forest where it was cooler, it was more comfortable, there was nice vegetation. So she basically made like a shadow of herself, like a double of herself, almost like, you can almost call it a clone. It was, like, almost like an astral form that materialized, kind of like a homunculus or something. So she made this copy of herself that was in the same, I guess, materiality as Surya, the sun god, and it would act just like her, feel just like her, do the exact same things. So she left this copy of herself in her place with her husband, and she took refuge from his heat in the forest. So he then went and had a child with this copy of his wife, Chaya, and the offspring was Saturn. And it's interesting because, scientists say that the gas giants, Saturn and Jupiter were, possibly, they almost became suns, but for some reason the whole process didn't, go off fully. So it's almost like Saturn couldn't be exactly like his father, the sun, because he was his other parent was like a clone, or like some sort of a copy. So this act of Saturn's mother creating a copy of herself to be with her husband, that it was basically an act of magic. So because Saturn was born from this kind of magical divine union, Saturn is therefore a master of magic and mysticism. And the way I look at magic is it's really about the hidden rules and laws that rule not just the spirit world but the physical world. What people have called magic over the years, it's basically knowledge and wisdom acquired from observing the world and the cosmos very deeply, so you see the deeper laws and the deeper mechanisms of it. And then there are things too that we don't understand. A lot of it's psychology too. It's psychological suggestion. But anyway, that's why Saturn is a master of magic. So yeah, this constellation Uttara Bhadrapada, ruled by Saturn. The deity that rules it is the fire dragon of the deep. So the fire dragon of the deep ocean. In a lot of mythologies, dragons dive into the ocean when they need to renew themselves, when they need to renew their energy. Because in pretty much all mythologies, dragons are immortal, but they do get old and they start feeling worn out, so then they dive into the ocean and they're renewed. So, yeah, this ruling deity of this constellation is the fire dragon of the deep, or the deep ocean, the deep waters. So, when you go right-brained on it and you look at a fire dragon diving into the depths of the ocean, it's basically like taking a flashlight or a torch into a dark place to illuminate it. So this fire dragon can go into the depths, the watery depths of our emotions, and make sense of what's in there and gain awareness of it. The fire element rules over the brain too, so it's the ability to look in and basically make sense of things. So pretty interesting. And like I said before, Pisces is the waters of wisdom, and it's the waters of the unconscious and the deep emotions. And again, this constellation is about mysticism because of Saturn's influence. And another thing with Saturn is it represents the dark world. So when I say the dark world, I don't mean evil, but the hidden side of the world and of the whole universe. So it deals with things like tantra, tantric magic, healing powers, everything having to do with the occult, with energy work, and with secrets. So, and interestingly, the symbol for this constellation is the twins. We usually think of the twins being Gemini, but this is kind of a different meaning, because Gemini deals with like a dual-natured, kind of a twin symbolism. The twins in this case, it's all about the dual nature of things, and because Pisces deals with wisdom and knowledge, self-knowledge and magic and secrets, and healing powers and energy, these twins stand for good and evil, or benevolence and malevolence. So the idea is that everything that this constellation deals with, just like the sign of Pisces, is highly spiritual, and it deals with the spiritual treasures in our lives. But because we have free will, we can decide whether we're going to use that spiritual wisdom and knowledge and those spiritual treasures in a benevolent way that uplifts other people and ourselves in the process, or we can use this knowledge selfishly in order to basically get what we want out of people, and throw them under the bus in the process. So that's a big theme for the world right now, because in the modern world we basically find ourselves living in a technocratic system where companies and extremely wealthy individuals who control, over 90% of all of the money and assets in the world, have access to the best technology, information technology, medical technology dealing with any science you can imagine. So because people and companies, corporations with all this, NGOs with all this money, have the best access to science, which is, modern magic, what they do with that really comes down to their character and their motivations. And that's a big thing that the whole world is dealing with right now, because the drug manufacturers are really the biggest sponsors to not just for-profit media, but non-profit media, because they make donations to non-profit media too. And it's basically a tax write-off. It's a tax shelter. So all of these companies who have the best access to all of this medical magic, medical scientific technology, they're all telling us a story right now about what's going on in the world. They're using the fear of death to get you to basically buy their product. And And we're left to trust our blind faith that these people who sponsor media outlets so that they can make more money, we're left to trust our blind faith that they're telling us the truth. And even the media itself is an act of magic, because it's a production. It's a theatrical production that is disseminated with high tech. Cameras, microphones, computers, satellite broadcasting systems, you name it, fiber optic. So there's all this magic being used right now to not just influence our decisions, but to basically corral us toward one specific decision that is going to affect your health and your well-being for the rest of your life. And there's a lot to this whole thing that I was going to say we haven't been told. We have been told, but most people won't believe it. A lot of bombshells do drop in the alternative media, or just with, through whistleblowers, but most people don't believe it because that media outlet or that person doesn't have a name brand attached, like a Fox, a CNN, NPR, or whatever. So this is really a time too, because Pisces deals with secrets, and Pisces for Americans, it's our fourth house of our homeland. It's really a time to think about the character of people who we've been looking to for leadership and for management here in our homeland and the entire world. We really need to look closely at their character and see if they're using their technological magic from a place of our wanting to look out for our well-being, or if they're just trying to make a buck. So, a lot to think about with this full moon here. Another thing going on too is this full moon happens right when Mercury's at 29 degrees of Virgo. So this is Mercury's home sign. Virgo is, well, first off, Mercury is communications, the intellect, thinking. And it's very careful thinking and communications. Because Virgo is all about taking your time to do things carefully and logically and get them right the first time. And 29 degrees, just like 0 degrees, is one of the miracle degrees. So when planets are at 0 and 29 degrees, they have a lot of power. They have basically infinite potential energy. They can do really amazing things. So on this day, we're being supported in our ability to get our thinking in order. And this is especially important because Mercury is on the verge of a retrograde. So Mercury is going to go 2 more degrees. It's going to go from 29 degrees of Virgo to 1 degree of Libra. It's going to station and stop on the 27th of September in 7 days, a week from today. It's going to go retrograde back into Virgo. And it's going to be a window of time where we need to focus on everything that Virgo stands for. So health, healing, ailments, medicine, sickness, the medical establishment, the medical industrial complex, the medical science establishment. So you might as well get a jump on it. Start thinking now. If you're watching this, you're probably thinking about this already. You've been thinking about it for almost 2 years, more than a year and a half. And then, on top of all of this, I'm going to wrap up here in a minute. On top of all of this, We've got 6 planets in retrograde. Wait. Excuse me, 5 planets in retrograde. All of the outer planets, all of the social planets. So we're talking Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. So those are the planets that govern the trends, the thinking, and the actions in the institutions of society. Things that take multiple generations to unfold. So with all of these social planets in retrograde, this means that society is basically undergoing an overhaul, and it's never going to be the same again. No one is going back to their glory days of the 1980s or the 1960s or World War II or Ronald Reagan or Bill Clinton or Barack Obama or whatever you think was a perfect time, the 50s. You're not going back there, especially since in this last December we had Jupiter and Saturn conjunct in Capricorn. That meant an overhaul of society and government. It's basically a whole new way of society and government for a new generation. So it's never going back to your glory days. So deal with that and cope with that and learn how to adjust your thinking, because you're not being told the truth right now by people with all the money and all the technological power who puppeteer all the politicians. So that's a lot to think about. The last thing too is in 2 days, on the 22nd, we have the fall equinox. So the fall equinox is always when the sun goes to Virgo. So, this is really like the fall point of the year. So this is when here in the northern hemisphere we'll have equal day and night, and then after that, night will be longer than the day. So we're reaching the point of the year where things kind of flip. And that especially is Libra, because it's the opposite to Aries, where the sun has passed over the equator and spring is coming back and sun is coming. So Libra really turns everything around and shows us the flip side of things. So we're going to that part of the year where we're basically going to reap what we sowed from the first half of this year. So make these last few days good and really get your thinking in order about everything going on in the world. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't had a Vedic astrology reading with me, I highly encourage it. It's a great empowerment tool. I don't do astrology to entertain. I do astrology to help people to take a deeper look at themselves, a look from another perspective that basically helps you to see yourself in a new light, to see hidden talents you may have overlooked, hidden opportunities, even pitfalls, in life, and to see how you can break out of comfort zones and just live more of the life that you want. I do rune readings as well. It's a great mind map to see where things are open and where things are blocked in your life and in your mind. And I also have some Qigong instructional videos for sale on the website. Qigong's a great mind-body practice that boosts and increases and optimizes emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical health. So thanks for tuning in, and talk to you later.